Welcome to History Doc.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the sheer scale and, frankly, the ongoing reality of the September 11 attacks. Now, we all know the broader historical narratives, right? But today, we're going to achieve a deeper understanding by looking at the stark data directly from our source material. We're going to break down how the physical structures, human behavior, and even the everyday regulations of the time shaped this tragedy. And as you'll see, we'll also explore how forensic science is quite literally still battling the aftermath today. Okay, let's ground ourselves immediately with one massive, sobering number: 2,996. That is the total number of people who perished, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in human history. To break that down, it includes 2,977 innocent victims, plus the 19 hijackers who committed murder-suicide. It's a number that is just so immense, the FBI actually noted that combining it with their traditional crime statistics for 2001 would falsely skew all their measurements. To truly understand how this tragedy unfolded, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The deadliest terrorist attack. 2. Evacuating the Twin Towers. 3. Passengers and the Pentagon. 4. The first responders. 5. The long-term health toll. And finally, 6. The ongoing forensic mission. Section 1. The deadliest terrorist attack. Let's begin by mapping out the unprecedented scale of the loss across the various impact sites on that Tuesday morning. When we organize the chaos of the data, we clearly see that while New York City absolutely took the brunt of the casualties, with an estimated 2,606 people dying in and around the World Trade Center, the loss of life was distributed. You also had 125 victims killed at the Pentagon in Virginia and 265 people who perished aboard the 4 hijacked commercial flights. And you know, to really grasp the global ripple effect of this event, we have to recognize that this was not just an American tragedy. Citizens from at least 102 different countries were killed. From the UK and India to South Korea and Colombia, the victims represented a vast cross-section of the global community, living, working, and traveling in the US. Section 2. Evacuating the Twin Towers. Let's shift to the logistics of survival and how the actual design of the buildings dictated who lived and who died in the World Trade Center. The stark physical contrast between the two buildings changed everything. In the North Tower, American Airlines Flight 11 hit dead center, right into the core. That immediately severed all 3 stairwells from the 50th floor upward, meaning for anyone above the 91st floor, escape was literally impossible. 0 survivors. But conversely, United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower with an offset approach. This offset impact miraculously left Stairway A in the northwest corner mostly intact. Because of that, 18 people from the impact zone were actually able to navigate their way down to safety. So the biggest factor regarding the South Tower's lower overall casualty count isn't just that surviving stairwell, it's the 17-minute gap between the 2 crashes. When the North Tower was hit, there were over 3,500 people occupying the upper floors of the South Tower. Because they had a 17-minute window before the second plane struck, thousands of those occupants, guided by really proactive company executives who ordered immediate evacuations, were able to get below the impact zone before their own building was even targeted. Now, for anyone trying to escape either tower, the descent was harrowing. The immense force of the airplane impacts caused the buildings to physically shift, violently jamming doors in their frames and completely blocking stairwells. Combine that with massive communication breakdowns. You had overwhelmed 911 dispatchers lacking any real situational awareness, repeatedly telling people to stay put. Plus, you had elevators stranded in their shafts. Though, in one incredible instance, a group of 6 trapped in a North Tower elevator actually managed to escape by literally tunneling their way through the sheetrock wall behind them. Amidst all those staggering numbers and structural failures, you find these remarkable micro-narratives of survival in the source material. Take Michael Hingson, for example. He was born blind, and he successfully navigated down 78 floors of the North Tower alongside his faithful guide dog, Roselle. It's just a powerful reminder of the sheer human perseverance required to survive that morning. Section 3. Passengers and the Pentagon. Next, we are shifting our focus to the casualties outside NYC, looking at the airspace and Arlington, Virginia. The data here breaks down the lives lost outside of Manhattan. At the Pentagon, 125 people were killed. What's really notable is the composition: 70 civilian employees and contractors, alongside 55 members of the military. Alongside them, we see the 265 innocent passengers and crew who perished aboard the 4 hijacked airliners, which tragically included young victims, children ranging from just 2.5 to 11 years old.
This next fact, derived directly from the source, is honestly chilling. The hijackers didn't need to smuggle sophisticated weaponry past security. Why? Because at the time, pocket utility knives with a blade under 4 inches were perfectly legal to carry on board under existing regulations. The terrorists actively took advantage of that loophole to threaten hostages, murder crew members, and take complete control of the planes.
Section 4. The first responders. As thousands fled the devastation, a dedicated few rushed directly into it.
343. That staggering number represents the members of the New York City Fire Department who lost their lives on September 11. They died alongside 71 law enforcement officers from various agencies, including the NYPD and the Port Authority. These individuals organized teams, climbed into burning superstructures, and directly facilitated the evacuation of thousands of civilians, fully aware of the immense danger they were facing.
But heroism wasn't limited to badge-carrying responders. This defiant quote comes from Rick Rescorla. He was the security director for Morgan Stanley in the South Tower. Rescorla actually anticipated an attack like this, so when the North Tower was hit, he ignored flawed official announcements telling people to stay in their offices. He declared he was getting his people out, and he personally ensured the successful evacuation of nearly all 2,700 of his company's employees. Tragically, Rescorla himself perished after running back into the building to search for stragglers.
And we absolutely cannot forget the maritime response. With trains stopped and bridges closed, Lower Manhattan was effectively an island trap. In response, an astounding 500,000 people were evacuated by water. 500,000 people. This was achieved by a massive, spontaneous flotilla comprised of the Coast Guard, civilian ferries, tugboats, and even private yachts that answered a radio call to assist.
But to truly comprehend the scale of this event, we have to ask ourselves a critical question that bridges the past to our present. Did the dying actually stop when the day ended and the fires were put out?
Section 5. The long-term health toll. The sobering answer to that question leads us into the infinite tragedy of this event, exploring the insidious long-term health impact. During and after the collapses, Lower Manhattan was blanketed in a highly toxic dust composed of pulverized concrete, asbestos, lead, and mercury. First responders spent months digging through this debris, often without adequate respirators. The result has been devastating. By 2013, over 1,000 cancer diagnoses were linked to the dust. By 2014, over 1,400 rescue workers had died. And in a profoundly grim milestone, in September 2023, the FDNY reported that their deaths from post-9/11 illnesses had officially matched the 343 lives they lost on the actual day of the attacks.
Section 6. The ongoing forensic mission. Finally, let's look at the monumental effort of seeking closure for the families through forensic science.
Because of the extreme heat, the intense pressure, and just the catastrophic nature of the building collapses, human remains were severely degraded. As a result, nearly 40% of the victims who perished in the World Trade Center, over 1,100 individuals, still do not have identified remains returned to their families.
Tracing this timeline paints a picture of relentless dedication. It proves this casualty list is still an active, breathing mission. Scientists are continually using advanced, highly sensitive DNA technology to analyze tiny bone fragments, some of which have been tested multiple times before without success. Thanks to these scientific leaps, they successfully identified new victims in 2013, again in 2018, in 2021, and 2 more victims just recently in September 2023.
So, what should you take away from this explainer? The September 11 attacks are not just a static moment enclosed in a history book. It is an ongoing, infinite human event. The physical and emotional fallout continues to ripple through families and first responders today, leaving us to look to the future of science and wonder, how many more of the missing will eventually be brought home to the families who have awaited closure for decades? Thank you for joining me to examine this data, and I'll see you in the next explainer.
Like this video, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to History Doc.